I think we all find ourselves in that position once in a while, don't we? We want to put Jesus on the throne and we keep bumping him off and getting on there ourselves. And today we're talking about making that choice. Last week we spent time talking about God's promise, and basically that promise is the promise to be with you. Just as he has done all down through the ages, God's desire has been to be close to his people, to be with his people, and he promises to do that. So now this week, we want to talk about our choice in the matter, because God is not going to force his presence on you. God is not going to force you to be close to him. He gives you a choice. He gives me a choice as to what we want to do. John Ortberg, many of you have read some of his books, great writer, great preacher, tells of a relative of his who once bought an old home that he was going to fix up and resell, like a lot of people do nowadays. Well, when he bought this old house, he started going through the attic to see what was up there, what he had to get rid of, and what work had to be done, and all of that. And while he's in the attic, he finds a bag. And the bag, true story, full of money. Thousands and thousands of dollars. The bills all dated decades earlier. So it had been up there a very long time. He had no way of knowing how it got there, no way of tracking where this money came from. Was it somebody who was just a miser who had lived in that house and was putting it all away, or was it the result of a bank heist? We just don't know. He didn't know where it came from. So he began to wonder, what are the ethics of this? What should I do with this money? His wife said, call John. And he said, no, John's a pastor and he'll just say automatically, give it back. You know? She said, well, call a lawyer and ask a lawyer. He said, oh, no, a lawyer will automatically say, keep it. So he said, I just don't know what to do. So he did wind up asking John Ortberg, what are the ethics of this money? What should I do? And Ortberg said, keep it if you tithe on it. There's this strange thing in our lives. We have treasure in the attic. And when we find it, we sometimes just don't take advantage of it. We don't know what to do with it. This man had treasure in the attic, and it had been forgotten by every owner that had ever been in that house. Some of the people who had lived in that house earlier had gone through crisis and money crisis and didn't know that there were thousands and thousands of dollars right up in their own attic. All the time there was treasure in the house. And the point is, there was a big gap between the riches they had available and the reality of how they lived their lives. They never went up into the attic. They never saw the treasure. And the reality for us today is that gap that we have between our experiences with God and the treasures available through him and the way we live. There seems to be a gap. Some of us know those treasures, some of us live them out, but some of us don't really know what's available. Now last week, as I said, we talked about God's desire to give us those treasures, and this week we want to talk about the fact that he leaves it up to you to make the choice as to whether or not you'll go up in the attic and receive the treasures. It's up to every one of us. So today we talk about our choice of going into the attic or moving toward God. I want us to consider today what it means to pursue a relationship with God. Many people ask this question, how can I be closer to God? I feel like I'm distant. I feel like I'm far away. How can I be closer? And a lot of people put the blame on God. Why doesn't he draw me closer? Why doesn't he move closer to me? And all the time God is saying, I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm waiting for you to claim the treasure. Matthew chapter 13 and verse 44, Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field. Now you get the picture of that. Jesus says, it's a parable, okay? Jesus said a guy is out in a field one day. He's not necessarily looking for treasure, but he's out in the field. He finds treasure. And he realizes, I can buy this field, and then that treasure will be mine. And so he hides the treasure in the field, buries it or whatever, and the treasure is there. And he goes out, sells everything else he has because he knows the value of what's in that field. Sells everything else he has, gathers up the money, and goes and buys that field. And the treasure now belongs to him. Now, he found that treasure in the natural course of life. How do we find that close relationship with God? In the same way, through the natural course of life. You don't have to go sit on a mountaintop somewhere and hum and contemplate your navel, you know. You don't have to do that. You don't have to live a lifestyle where you only eat one meal a week. You don't have to fast until you're skin and bones. You don't have to do those things. You can be close to God through the natural course of your life. Through everything you do daily, in everything that is going on, for every part of every day. We need to seek the chance each day to be close to God. Now I'm going to cover 4 of the aspects of life that we go through and illustrate, hopefully, how these things can be woven in to our everyday life. Every day you can seek that treasure. Every day God is just waiting for you to find it. Every day God says, draw near to me. We've been singing about that this morning. Draw me close to you. And God says, I am. You've got to stop taking the position on the stool, okay? And let me be on the stool. So, the first one is our work. How do you work with Jesus? How do you be drawn to God in your work? You see, work is the single largest block of your time, of every waking day. Your work takes up more time than anything else. And your work can be a life and death situation. It can be a life and death decision. Outside of genetics, the most important predictor of how long you and I will live is our work satisfaction. Did you know that? That's why so many people, when they retire, die pretty quickly. My brother retired a few years ago, and I told him too, I said, I'm very concerned for you because you've worked hard all your life. You've been busy all your life. And I'm afraid you're going to go off somewhere and die because a lot of people do. It happens with a lot of people. Fortunately, he got into a whole lot of stuff with his church and doing all kinds of things and has stayed busy and stayed alive, okay? So some people wonder, is my life going to be short? Is it going to be long? And how you're satisfied with your work has a lot to do with it. And since it's so important, we need a biblical perspective. What we do is we often, almost always, equate work with our job, with our paycheck that we get. When it's payday for me, Craig hands me a check twice a month. And I like to kid with Craig, and as a matter of fact, he paid me today, okay? I got the check in my pocket. And when he hands me that check, I like to look at him and say, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Of course, just joking with him, because that's not what it's all about. And that is not, frankly, our work. We're not talking about just the job. There's so much more to it. If you've heard the statement, haven't you, that there are no stupid questions, right? I'm going to tell you, I'll give you one stupid question. Ask a young mother of little children if she works. Yeah, you're liable to get smacked. Okay? So what we do is we distinguish between work and not working by talking about, is somebody retired? Has somebody lost their job? Is somebody a stay-at-home mom or dad in these days? And we think they're not working because they don't have a job. But there's so much more to work than what your job is. So we need to reclaim the biblical definition of work because it is more. And here it is. Work is the creation of value as I serve God, as I care for His creation, and as I seek to benefit the lives of other people. What everybody was doing here yesterday as people came in to get food was work. It creates value. It creates, what everybody was doing up here on stage is work. There's more to work than just our job. It includes our jobs, but it also includes what we do in our household, what we do with our families, what we do in church, how we volunteer. We need to ask ourselves this question when we are at work. If Jesus tomorrow were to show up while I'm working and He looked just like me, would things go differently? Would you work differently if Jesus showed up with you tomorrow? Yeah. I think probably so. Every day we have opportunities to learn from Jesus. Every day we work a little better because of Jesus. There's a fundamental statement about this in the Bible. It's in Colossians chapter 3, verses 23 and 24, where it says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for men. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. When you work for Jesus. And when you keep that in your mind, you keep that in your heart, folks, you'll begin to be drawn closer to Him. So rate yourself on how you work, with 1 being you do as little as possible, and 10 being that you're wearing a different bracelet. You know, the one of what would Jesus do? Is that the one? All right, what would Jesus do? Wear this one. How would Jesus work? Get a bracelet that says that. Put up a poster that says that. Write that on the mirror in your bathroom. How would Jesus work today? And you begin to work that way. Tomorrow, when you start your day, think to yourself, here's my chance to learn from Jesus how to live in His kingdom. And then go to work. The second one is we have a choice to be with Jesus in our recreational activities and our leisure time. You know, we're not made to work all the time. God tells us that we should take some time to rest and to relax. We should take some time to play and to create because we need renewal. It is so sad to me today, as Charles mentioned, today is my birthday, and I'm really old, okay? So I can remember the day when the stores were all closed on Sunday. It wasn't because there was a law. It was because the owners of those stores honored God. And so they would close on Sunday, and we couldn't go buy things. It irritated a lot of people, enough people to get the laws overturned, and the minds changed, hearts changed, and they began to open up. But you know what? Every time I go, say, buy some groceries or something else, I feel just a little bit guilty. Not because that's what I'm doing, but because that person behind the counter has to work on Sunday. That person that is helping me has to work on Sunday. That bothers me a little. I think it ought to bother all of us a little. Because we need time to rest and to relax. We need time to play. We need time to create. We need time to be renewed. Every moment of our free time is a chance to be with Jesus, but it needs to be intentional. We need to make up our minds that that's what we're going to do, because default mode in free time is often that 800-pound gorilla in your living room, the television set. Very often that's what's going to take up your free time. There are some time researchers named John Robinson and Jeffrey Godby who did a study of how much time Americans spend watching TV. You know what the answer is? 40% of your free time, of Americans' free time, is spent watching TV. That's an awful lot of time. Robert Putnam wrote a book. I haven't read this book. I just got a quote from it. But what a title. Bowling Alone. Okay? And I can relate to that. When I play golf, I hate playing alone. And so I could write a book golfing alone. But he wrote in his book, Bowling Alone, that the past 2 decades have witnessed a dramatic change in one traditionally important form of family connectedness, the evening meal. So true. Families eat together much less often, and when they do, there's a good chance they do it in front of a television set. That's so true. I remember Barbara and I learned this when our kids were little, and we understood that family time at that dinner table was extremely important. So we didn't watch TV when they were small. We didn't watch TV while we had dinner. We had dinner at the dinner table. We were a family. And I really want to encourage you to consider that. If you have children still at home, have that family time together at the meal. You talk, you're relaxed, you read through the New Testament, and you find over and over again Jesus eating with people. Paul and the other disciples eating with people. There's something about eating with people that breaks down barriers. I know it is for me, because I'll have my glasses on a string, hanging here, and after dinner, there's food all there. My kids are shaking their heads. Don't talk like that. So, but the barriers are down. We can just be ourselves as a family. And so I really encourage you to do that. People who rely on TV for their entertainment are the least likely people to volunteer. They're the least likely to stay in touch with their friends. They're the least likely to attend church. All of these things are true. They are the most likely to show other drivers on the road their IQ with one finger. They're the most likely to do that, people who entertain themselves with television. And television is habit forming. In 1977, the Detroit Free Press offered 120 families $500. This is in 77. $500 was a lot more than it is now. Offered them $500 if they would not watch TV for 1 month. 120 families, 5 of them would do it. The rest wouldn't even do it. And those 5 who did it said that they experienced boredom, anxiety, irritation, and depression. One woman said, "It was terrible. We did nothing. My husband and I talked." Yeah. So why do we get hooked on that? Is it because it gives us high levels of joy, high levels of growth and meaning in our lives? No way. In one study, they asked people to carry beepers, and they would beep them regularly during the course of a day. And when they were watching television, what they were to do is, when they got beeped, is to write down what they were doing and how they were feeling. And they found out pretty quickly that those who were journaling that they were watching TV found that TV was associated with feelings of passivity and with lowered alertness. In other words, they're getting dumber, okay, by watching TV all the time. So why do we do it? Because it's the cheapest, least demanding way to avert boredom. All we got to do is plop down in a chair and turn it on. Nowadays, we've even got a remote that we say, "Find this" or "Find that," and it goes to it. I mean, you just talk to it anymore. So now, used to be the TV just talked to you, but now you talk to your TV too. So how do we reclaim our recreational and leisure time? How do we choose to be with Jesus instead of being with Hollywood? Well, number one, how much time you watch it. I'm not saying you can't watch TV. I'm not saying even that watching TV is a sin, so don't misunderstand me. But it ought to be limited. How many TVs are in your house? You know, in 1970, 6% of sixth graders had a TV in their room. In 1999, 77% of sixth graders have a TV in their room. So how do we get out of that? We limit that time. We limit that number. Maybe choose a day or a week or a weekend without TV. I mean, when we talk about fasting, that's food. How about fasting with your television? And get rid of that for a while. What activities could God use to breathe life into me if I would do that? Go out and be with nature. Go out and cook and eat. Do all sorts of things. Here's my chance. Here's my chance to be with Jesus. So the third area where we make this choice is through our lifestyle choices. We all make choices on how we spend our time. We all make choices on how we spend our money. We all make choices on what pace of life we will live. We all make choices on how much debt we will be in. We all make choices on the commitments that we have and the pressure that is put upon us. These things impact our lives and whether or not we're able to get close to God or are drawn away from God. Romans 12 verse 2 says, "Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will." But the world says, you need to move faster. You need to go quicker. And we do it. But the faster we go, the more it cuts us off from prayer. The more it cuts us off from time spent with God. Media tycoon Robert Maxwell was picked up at the airport one day by one of his employees who was late, and Maxwell fired him on the spot. The employee was his own son. True story. Got to go fast, got to go fast. And we buy into what the world is telling us. It's not just media tycoons. Satan can't make you defy God, but Satan can make you busy. And you get so busy that you get away from God. So what is the pace of life at which you can live and still be intimately connected to God? What is the pace of life at which you can live and still effectively love people and still live with joy? We need to find that pace and don't go beyond it. Don't get busier and busier. One of the things that for me that I like to get away, especially right now, is today, this afternoon, I'm going to be playing golf with Beth. So we're going to get out, we're going to play golf. It's my birthday, and so I'm having birthday golf. Now, when I'm out there, very often, the guys that I've played with in the past hear this. I get out there, and as we're walking along, as some of you know, I'll go, "What a friend we have in Jesus." And very often guys have said, "I wondered when you were going to break out into that." But you know what? That draws me close to Him. I'm singing His name, and He is my friend. And it's not just a nervous habit. It is something that draws me near to Jesus. And so we do those kinds of things. It's a lifestyle choice. Another lifestyle choice has to do with our stuff. The world says, accumulate more, get more. We live in this consumer culture. That's all. It seems to be all we hear about in America. Get more stuff all the time. And you know what? Holidays. I mean, I think about Thanksgiving, and it's my favorite holiday. I love Thanksgiving. I love it. It's family time. It's giving thanks to God time. We always spend some time around our Thanksgiving table, each one of us giving thanks separately, so that we all hear what the other is thankful for. And it's a time to be thankful to God. It's a time for our family to be together as we cook, as we eat, and as we clean up at the end. It's all that time. It's very, very important to me. But you know what the world says? Let's open the stores earlier. You know, it used to be Black Friday, people getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go shopping, which I do not understand. I don't care what the deal is. I'm sorry, I just don't get it. But now they're opening up on the holiday. Our holidays have become, instead of a family time, have become a shopping time. And it's a sad situation for that to happen to us, to we Americans. And so malls have replaced churches as places to gather. And people are gathering there on those important holidays instead of together as a family. And so this rise in consumerism has given life to something else. It's given life to an increase in clutter in our homes. You know, maybe a good thing to do this week would be to declutter. I need to declutter. I need to get rid of a lot of stuff. Get it all gathered up together and give it away. You know, a lot of the stuff that we have that is cluttered to us would be a fantastic thing for somebody else to have. And so it would be a great thing for us to do that. To remember, I'm not saying again on this one, it's not wrong to shop. I don't want to put you on a guilt trip. You go shopping this afternoon or tomorrow or whatever. That's not the point. The point is that we need to come to a place where I say, ask God to help me to make my purchases wisely with His help. Pray about every purchase, not just the big ones. Pray about all of them. And then you'll have that opportunity to be drawn closer to Christ. If you're going to be with Jesus in your lifestyle, though, it means saying no to some other things. It means saying no to debt. It means saying no to some time-consuming things. It means saying no to some major purchases because you want to be drawn closer to Jesus. The fourth and last area that you can make a choice to be with Jesus is in your relationships. When you are with others, you are making the choice to be with Jesus in those relationships or to exclude Him from those relationships. Again, just like our drama. He said, I want to exclude Jesus from this relationship. I want to go shopping with that girl. And so you make the choice to be with Him or exclude Him. And every interaction you have is a chance to learn how to have a loving heart. For instance, the moment you greet someone, every culture has some expressions and some rituals that they go through when saying hello. For example, the word shalom means hope. I hope you flourish in God's good order. So when people say shalom to each other, that's what they're saying. Now, Paul wrote in the New Testament 4 different times, greet one another with a holy kiss. Some of you are thinking, weird. Greet one another, that's weird. But you know what? You don't want to say too much about it being weird because we are the first culture in history to have as a standard greeting, what's up? Talk about weird. Here are some choices you can make when you greet someone. You can silently pray for God to bless this person today, especially when you're out in the world and you're meeting. You say you're buying something at the grocery store, and maybe you see in the eyes of the person that's waiting on you, they're having a tough go, something going on. Just silently pray. If you have opportunity, pray with them out loud. You don't always have that opportunity, and some of us are better at that than others, but all of us can silently pray for someone that we meet and greet. And that would be a great thing to do. Ask God to bless them. Ask God to touch their lives. Another facet of choosing to be with Jesus in relationships is through our friendships. Researchers say that we Americans are in the midst of the marginalization of friendship. That friendship is no longer as important in people's lives as it used to be. The reality is that friendships are less common today than in the past. And friendships of today are often short-lived and superficial. Listen, I have a couple of close friends. Jesus had a couple of close friends, didn't he? Jesus had his 12 disciples that he was friends with, more so than the masses. But out of those 12, he had 3 that he was extremely close to. And out of those 3, John was his best friend. So friendship is a great thing. Jesus needed it. Jesus had it. I know I have some friends that I'm very close to. I've had more in the past. I've had friends that I was very close to. A couple of years ago, I lost the best friend I ever had. And loved him dearly. But we've been separated by distance and time for quite a few years. But nevertheless, when we saw each other the last couple of times, it was as though we had always been together. Dear close friend. It's so important for you to have that because you have in that something that Jesus had. And you can relate to Jesus in a way that somebody without friends can't do it. And so friendship is extremely important. How much time do you put into cultivating deep friendships? Some people tell me sometimes, I don't have any friends. Well, what are you doing about that? Are you trying to cultivate a friendship, or are you just waiting for people to come to you? Swallow your pride, go make a friend. Do something nice for somebody, and you will have a friend. Proverbs 17:17 says, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. I have one close friend that every once in a while we get at odds with one another. Every once in a while we'll have an argument. Every once in a while the iron will clash and sparks will fly. And I believe both of us learn something. I believe both of us are drawn closer to each other when it's over. And so it's really important for us to have that. Another relationship that you need, that you're going to be surprised at, is you need relationships with difficult people. Don't look to your right or left right now. Okay? We need some relationships. Notice that I'm looking at all of you. We need some relationships with difficult people. We need them because we need to learn how to love them. If you only love those who love you, there's no challenge in your life. And so we need to love difficult people. The ability to love difficult people is the litmus test of spiritual growth. So if you have difficult people in your life, be glad that you have them. If you don't have difficult people in your life, find one. Make a list. Have some difficult people so that you can grow in your life. Think of someone right now, and again, don't look to your right or left. Think of someone right now that you work with, that's in your family, that each time you encounter them, you remember, I have a chance here to learn how to love. I have a chance to show the love of Christ. Every day, if these things get woven into the fabric of your life, and you take the chances, and you choose to be with Jesus, if you make the choices to go into the attic and get the treasure, you'll be drawn closer to God because you've made the choice. Moses once prayed in Psalm 90, verse 12, teach us to number our days aright, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Use your days wisely, and you will have a heart of wisdom. Pray every day, here's my opportunity to be with Jesus. Learn from Him. Become like Him. and treasure that day. Would you stand with me, please? And would you bow with me in prayer? Father, I'm just so grateful for this church. I'm grateful for each person here today. I thank you for bringing us together this morning. I know that you have a purpose for each one of us today to be here, and I just pray that you would help us to fulfill that purpose. Help us, Father, to be drawn closer to you each and every day. We love you and we praise you and we honor you. In the name of Jesus, amen. Amen. God bless you. Have a great day today.